Hey everybody, it's James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have your Bitcoin/cryptocurrency update for December the 16th. Before I jump into today's content, please do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button on the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell notification to get notifications when I release these daily updates. So obviously we had our daily close less than an hour ago, and yesterday was obviously the weekly close. So I'm going to talk about some of that big picture stuff. Also going to talk about some of the smaller time frame stuff that I think is getting ready to happen. So first things first, let's take a look at the weekly chart. Again, yesterday was the close of last week. So I had mentioned about a week back that at no time since this downtrend started has Bitcoin put in 3 green candles in a row. It's put in 2 just once, and then it started to resume its downtrend. So we had the same thing happen here. We put in 2 green candles, and of course we had a red week last week. Now, I had in a couple of videos, I had said I thought it might get down to like 6,900 and then have a nice bounce. So I want to talk about that right now because there's a lot of people on social media who have flipped to the bear camp and they're calling for 5,500 and 6,000. And it's not that I think they're necessarily wrong, but there's some stuff going on in the chart that makes me wonder if that's actually going to happen. Okay, so here's the deal. If we look at this red box on the weekly RSI, this bottom of the box, this actually acted as support all through the 2018 bear market. And this is a Coinbase chart, so it only goes back to 2015. But on the BLX chart that goes back a bunch further, this was a good line of support time and time again. Each time it came down to that line in 2018, it bounced right off of it until the very end of the bear market where it actually fell through the bottom of it and bottomed out. So here's the thing. When I look at that, it's kind of tricky because it's like, wait a minute, if we go down to 6,000, we're going to be well outside of that box. So this would be the first time in the last 5 years that it went down outside of that box, did not reach oversold, but then jumped back inside of it. You can see back here that maybe a little false break right here. Maybe we could get something like that, right? RSI was sitting right around, looks like 39.7. It's sitting at 40.71 right now. So I'm going to watch that really carefully because I have a sneaking suspicion that it may not get to 6,000, that it may do one of two things, that it may stop roughly where it's at, maybe go just a tiny bit lower, like 6,600, 6,800, and then bounce. Or it might just completely fall apart and drop all the way down past that 6,000, past that 5,500, and maybe we see capitulation and panic. Now, I don't want that to happen. That would actually be bad for me. Even though I'm bearish on Bitcoin, I'm not sitting in a short position because I've been expecting this thing to stop between 6,000 and 6,400. So if it suddenly fell to 4,000, it would be bad. I would miss that opportunity to short it. So that would stink. But I do think it's possible, and I think it's important to keep an eye on this. Obviously, right now, this is a brand new week. It just started yesterday. So, this thing could go down a little bit and then still close up inside of this. So I'm going to be watching that with a very keen eye. Okay, if we turn this into a line chart, again, guys, when you see people on social media calling bottoms, you need to really take that with a grain of salt. I would advise you not to follow those people. And it's not that I'm a hater and say, oh, don't follow them. It's not that I'm jealous or anything like that. There are plenty of really good people to follow on social media that you can find, right? But anybody who's calling bottoms when we have a double top sitting right here, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, and a lower high, that's ridiculous. This is beginner level stuff. This is something that if you've been trading for a month and you've taken any type of course at all or read any books at all on trading, you would recognize this as a textbook example of a downtrend. You do not call bottoms in a downtrend before bullish structure is sitting there, right? You just don't do it. I'm going to show you another chart at the end of this video that talks more about that bullish structure. But obviously this is still a downtrend. It's very likely that we are going to punch in a lower low, right? Here's a low, lower high, lower low. And, I still think this thing can pump up to 8,500 or 9 grand, but I think it's going to go lower before it does it, okay? Assuming, of course, that this doesn't act as support. If it doesn't move lower, that could be the gotcha, right? It could be that people are waiting for that $6 grand going short here, and then it pumps up to $8 or $9 grand, right, to wash them out, which would be pretty interesting, right? So that's the 3-day chart, the weekly chart. If we take a look at the 3-day chart, this red candle that we are currently in started on December 15th. Technically right now we're on December 17th on the charts. Now it's December 16th my time, but we rolled over into a new day, like I said, an hour ago. So on the chart, it's actually the 17th. So this has about 23 hours left before it closes. And lo and behold, right, this thing, like I've been saying for months now, this thing is acting like a crystal ball, right? It came up, tagged the same resistance right here and right here, came down, found the same support right here, came up and tested the resistance right here, and then in this case it moved down to 35.97 before having this big shot up. Where is it sitting at right now? 36.41, right? So it's doing exactly what I've been expecting now for about 2 weeks, okay, which is great. Again, originally I thought it might stop at 6,900, so maybe this is just going to stop, right? It made a low of 68.03 so far. Maybe that was this low, and maybe it is going to move up from there. And I still think that if it moves up, we could be looking at a retest of this $9,000 resistance up here, okay? So that's what I'm saying in the 3-day chart, but we've got to let that close. Something else I'm going to point out on the 3-day chart is if this thing does close below $7,162, say it closes right here or even a little bit lower, and this thing closes where it's at on RSI, you're going to have a bullish divergence on a 3-day chart. Now you might be saying, is that a big deal? It's a huge deal. Huge deal. It's the same thing that happened right here. Bullish divergence on a 3-day chart, and then boom, rocket ship, right? So am I shorting this? Hell no. You couldn't pay me to short Bitcoin at $6,900. You could not pay me, okay? I'm not going to long it, but you sure as hell wouldn't get me to short it at this level, all right? I would rather miss that move and then get wrecked again. No thanks. Had that experience back here. Don't plan on repeating it. Okay, so that's the daily, that's the weekly. Also, I'm going to break out for just a second before we go into any more charts. I do want to say something else about dollar cost averaging. There's been a lot of people talking about dollar cost averaging since I did that video, right? And I wanted to say that, guys, when I'm talking about dollar cost averaging and what, like, my dislike for it, it's when you're talking about your trading fund, okay? People piss away money all the time on stupid stuff. Like, I'll give you an example. I've been buying a Powerball ticket twice a week now, ever since I was probably 25 years old. Maybe even a little bit younger than that, okay? So you're talking about 15 years, close to 15 years of buying Powerball tickets. The most I ever won was $100. I've spent probably thousands of dollars on Powerball tickets, and if I'm being totally honest with you, I haven't even checked the tickets I bought in the last 5 or 6 months. Some of them have actually probably expired. You have to check them within 6 months to claim them, and I don't even check them. I buy them out of habit more than anything else. I've got a huge stack sitting on my desk right now that I actually gathered up this week. I thought, gosh, I need to check them before they expire. So I spend $4 every Wednesday and $4 every Saturday. It's $8 a week. Okay, so if somebody's taking money like that they're just pissing away anyway and putting it on Bitcoin and saying, you know what, I don't care, I was going to waste it anyway, I think that's great, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, you're probably better off spending $4 or $8 a week on Bitcoin than you are $8 a week on Powerball, right? So if you're talking about like money that you were just going to waste anyway, like entertainment money, if you will, or discretionary money, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Because it's money that you don't care about. It's money that if it goes to zero, who cares, right? If I had been putting $5 a week or $8 a week into Bitcoin, right, since I was 25, it wasn't out when I was 25, but if I started putting $5 a week into it back in like 2011 when I first heard about it, imagine how much Bitcoin I would have had by now. So something like that I think is fine. It's just like when you're talking about your trade fund, money that really matters, that's where I think dollar cost averaging is sketchy. All right, let's take a look at a daily chart for Bitcoin. So we are obviously outside of the triangle now. That's pretty clear to see, right? Even if we had redrawn it like this, either way, it's outside the triangle. It could come up for a bearish retest, right? Really fool some people before moving down further. But if this was the triangle, this was the bearish retest right here, okay? One thing I will say is, same thing I talked about a few days ago, got to watch this Right now it is technically put in bullish divergence. The close here was 69.08. The close yesterday was 68.77. So that is a lower low in price, while at the same time it did indeed put in a higher low, a much higher low in RSI. So you have bullish divergence there. Here's the problem with fighting the trend and trading divergences. Right now, this looks like bullish divergence. But if this candle ends up falling way down here, RSI is going to fall with it. And it could be that your bullish divergence actually disappears and that you end up getting with a lower low in RSI than over here. Now, I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. What I want to happen, I talked about this a couple of days ago, I do want price to fall down to this level, right around 6,300, 6,400 bucks. I do want RSI to fall, but I want to get some RSI that looks something like this, right? Where it falls down around 25 to 28, and then this falls down to this level, and that is where I'll be looking to go long on Bitcoin. Not on a long term, not, oh my God, I'm going to hold it for the moon, but looking for a relief bounce where I'm fighting the trend and trying to get that bounce back up to, at least 8,500 all the way up to 9,000. Okay, that's what I would be looking for. Essentially what I would be doing, I would have some Fibonacci levels that look something like this, and I would be looking for that bounce up to around like I said, 8,500 to 9,000. And if you look, right here is the 200-day moving average, it's orange line. So if it takes it a little while to get up there, boom, right? We could go up and retest that 200-day moving average, way the hell up there, absolutely destroy late shorters, and absolutely get bulls ecstatic, thinking this is it, the halving is in 6 months, here we go, rocket ship, baby, right? That's what I would be looking for. And I would be taking profits on that long position if I got that relief bounce. So I'm going to wait. Like I said, I'm not going to short it because I'm not super confident that it's going to get to this level, but I'm also not going to long it because if I go long at 6,800 and it falls down here, I would get stopped out, right? My stop loss would get executed. So that's what I'm looking at on the daily chart. On a 4-hour chart, we're obviously deeply oversold, right, on the RSI. This line means nothing anymore. This line could end up meaning something, right? This could be that this thing does come up, get a bearish retest, and then move down further. So that might be a line worth watching. And of course, if that happens, good chance it'll come up and try to tag this again. That's up around 7,200 bucks. Doesn't seem likely at this point. I think it's highly unlikely, but I do think it's possible. And again, I think it's a good enough possibility that I'm not going to short this thing. I'm just chilling out, right? I'm just being patient and waiting. And the more patient you are, the less you get sucked into over trading and the less you make mistakes. So that's what I'm seeing on Bitcoin. Okay. If we go look at the BLX chart, let's take a look at this thing. The monthly chart to me still looks super bearish, right? We don't need the moving averages on there. This still looks super bearish to me. This still looks like it's going down. And if you look at it, you've got well, that's not what I meant to do. You've got a high, a higher low, a lower high, and a lower low. So again, this does look like it needs to pump, right? You put in a lower high, but we don't know how low it's going to go before it pumps. So that's kind of what I'm saying on that. I truly believe that what we're going to end up seeing is probably going to be like 2015, right? Which I talked about in lots and lots of videos. I think we'll see something like this, right? Where we're actually like in this part on the way down, and that we're going to put in a lower low. That's what I think is going to happen. Okay, and again, I think that would be down. Worst case, I think we just come down and retest this old high right down in here somewhere. Okay, but I play it level to level. I'll still be watching if we get down to 4,100 for sure. So that's what I'm seeing there. What else? There's something I wanted to talk about, and it's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and swap over to altcoins, talk about them some, and hopefully I remember before the end of the video. So let's look at Litecoin first. Litecoin, man, I love this coin. I was calling for $40 Litecoin back in July. Of course, now we've got there. We're under $40. This thing is really interesting to me right now. Actually, I had a chart pulled up of this. Let me show you the chart. So we do have the same thing going on, right, on the daily. We do have a tiny, tiny, tiny bullish divergence here. I don't really like it enough to go long on it. So I'm not going to long it. I'm going to take the RSI off of there. And what I want to do, I'm going to get this 200 moving average off of there. And let's zoom out to the weekly. Get the trends off of there. If you look at where this stopped falling, this is as cliche as it gets. It's the top, right? It's the close of this neckline back here. That's all that was. Now I didn't get any bids filled. My bids are closer down right around 35 bucks, just under 35 bucks, because I'm looking for this liquidity gap to fill. So again, if Bitcoin falls down to around 6,400 bucks, I think we could see Litecoin fall all the way down to that level. And that would be the level that I would be interested in longing Litecoin on a shorter time frame. Swing trade, not a position trade, right? Position trade means I'm going to hold it and ride it back up. It's on a downtrend, right? I'm not going to fight the trend, right? I'll take the swing on it to fight the trend that way, but I'm not going to take a position trade. If we draw, there's all kinds of different trends we can look at, but if we take the smaller trend, the trend from this peak to this low and then this pullback, you can see that that gives us a target down around 33 bucks. So that would work for me, right around this level right here. You know, and if I get filled at like 34 something and it goes down to 33, I will not get stopped out. I will not sell for that type of loss. I would be looking at a larger stop loss because I do think it needs to bounce. And I think this thing could absolutely bounce all the way back up to 44 bucks fairly easily, right? So if I get filled down around 34 and it bounces to 44, that's about a 30% gain. So my stop loss on that's going to be at least 10%, okay? But yeah, I think Litecoin looks like it's trying to set up for a nice trade, right? Right now, it's not there. We've got a little bit of bullish divergence, but that's it. I don't see any real reason to jump into this and chase it down. Could it go up? For sure. It could absolutely go right back up to this resistance, and I could be wrong. It might not go down more before it does. And that, quite frankly, if Bitcoin starts to go back up and the 6,800 is the local bottom, then that is probably what will happen. It probably will just go right back up. But I'm willing to wait and be patient, right? So that's kind of what I'm saying on Litecoin. If we look at EOS, EOS has not performed near as well as what I expected it to, right? I didn't go long on it or anything, but it did have this ascending triangle, and I said this might be one of the few alts that actually does move up. Well, shit, that didn't happen, right? Look at this. I mean, it absolutely, once it broke out of this ascending triangle, it really took a beating. I don't know what exactly that is percentage-wise, but yeah, 8%. So it dropped about 8% to the close, and if you count the tail, geez, that was a 10% 4-hour candle. That's really rough for EOS. So that's obviously busted now. That triangle is no longer in play, and now there's just nothing, right? There's no structure there. And if we look at a RSI, yeah, I mean, you do have, on the 4-hour, you do have, this is bullish divergence, right? No, it ain't. Shoot, no, it ain't. It's actually, it made a lower low. No bullish divergence on the 4-hour. What about the daily? Same thing as the other Bitcoin and Litecoin, right? You've got a lower low in price, a much higher high, or excuse me, a much higher low in RSI. That looks pretty good. But again, the problem you run into is this could fall and this RSI could keep dropping. We don't know if it's going to stop there. And that's the danger in fighting the trend, okay? I really didn't think that thing would fall that much. That one kind of caught me a little off guard. This was really ranging more than anything else, so it's kind of hard to draw a trend on it, right? I guess if I had to draw it, I'd probably draw it something like this, which means it just lost at 78.6, which means the next level is $2.06 on that smaller trend. And you can't see it on this chart, but there's actually a gap down around the $2 area on like Bitfinex. So that's probably, you know, man, I don't want to say that's where it's going because that's a big drop, but I definitely don't see any good news for the bulls here. No good. Other than that bullish divergence, there's not a whole lot really to get happy about on that one. This is a gap, right? This is a liquidity gap right here. So somebody might win a long, I'm not going to, but somebody might say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and long this and go for the gap fill. That's a really big jump in price. It could end up being a really good trade. about 7.6%. So I could see an argument for a more aggressive trader. They might say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and enter this position based on that 4-hour divergence, daily divergence. And I'm going to go ahead and shoot for the top of this gap, and I'm going to put my stop loss just below this low over here. And if you look, that is a legit trade, right? It is a legit trade. You've got a 2-to-1 risk reward. If you're wrong, you're going to lose 3.8%. If you're right, you can make 7.68%. There is a gap there. There is bullish divergence on the daily. And if you look, the hourly is stupid oversold, right? So yeah, that is a legit trade. I'm not taking it, right? Just not that interested in trading alts. You know, Bitcoin moves down a couple percent, and then you got alts move down 8 and 10%. No thanks. So that's what I'm saying on EOS. Let's jump over to, I'm going to jump over to the comments real quick. I think some people asked for some specific coins. Do you think there will be a weaker bearish case because we haven't reached all-time highs yet? Yeah, I think it's possible. So what they're asking obviously is, since the other bear markets had all-time highs, they were deeper, 84% retracements, lasted about a year. So I think if I understand their question correctly, what they're asking is, do I think maybe this retracement, this bear market will be shorter and not as deep? Yeah, I think it's possible. I actually think it's entirely possible that 4,100 is low, right? I mean, I know I'm talking in a lot of bearish terms and stuff, but I've been saying this for basically ever since June, right? That I thought we'd go back down to 4,100 to 4,300. I do think it's possible that will end up being the low, right? And if that's the case, that will be a shorter bear market, and it will also be a weaker bear market. If we don't punch in a lower low, I think that's going to be what we see. And if we look, that would be a price drop of about 70%. And the reason I like that, I think I posted this on Twitter. Let me find the chart. Here we go. That would be very similar to what the NASDAQ did after the dot-com bubble. This was actually the dot-com bubble back here. And after it crashed, it actually had this huge rally where the NASDAQ actually went up almost tripled, right? From down around 800 all the way up to over 2,200. And it was an echo bubble that popped. And when it popped, it actually came back down, retraced about 80%, right? Found a bottom, and then it moved up. And of course, since then, it's just been absolutely on a tear. So I do think it's possible, like if we start looking at this right side of this picture here, this is our Fibonacci levels. And on a parabolic move, you do often get an 80% retracement, which would put us right down around this red line. That's around $5,000. It also lines up really nicely with the 200-week moving average, which of course is going to keep moving up. So it'll be a little higher than that. And then we have this green line, which is actually an uptrend, right? When measured from the low in December of 2018, this is actually the uptrend line. So if you get down here, say in like January, February, right around 45 to 5,000 bucks would be that uptrend. I do think it's possible that it throws a tail down to fill in this gap back here and then moves up from there. I do think that's possible. I think the danger is for a bull is to get too over exuberant and to think, okay, this is definitely what's happening, because after it falls through the 200 weekly, if it falls through that 200 weekly, then that becomes resistance, and you could suddenly find out that you go up to retest it and move lower. Same thing this trend line. Right now it's an uptrend, but if we fall under it, that's going to flip to resistance. But I do still think it's possible that we do stop once we get down to this level. Okay, and of course we could stop before then too, but I don't see anything in the charts to support that. That's just a maybe without any kind of real evidence to support it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking there. IOTA. Let's take a look at IOTA. Again, I don't know if you're talking about US dollars or Bitcoin pairs. You didn't specify. So I'm just going to guess and that you're talking about US dollars. So it's not that old, but it's not that new either. You're right. About a year and a half old. It's at an all-time low, so couldn't tell you. I have no idea, right? When you get into that all-time low stuff, there's no support, right? There are no old levels of, say, okay, well, there's a liquidity gap here. Or, okay, well, there was support and resistance here, right? None of that stuff. So I have no earthly idea where this thing will stop at. What I will tell you is right now it has bullish divergence on the weekly chart. If you go back here to here, if this week closes underneath this level being 22 cents, if it closes underneath that, you're going to have a huge bullish divergence. That's a year-long bullish divergence, right? So that would make me think it's close to a bottom. If we draw some extensions, depends on which trend we're looking at. I don't really only see one that would qualify in my eyes, and that would be this one. Down, up. Oh shit. Yeah, that ain't good. What's that pointing to? It's pointing to a negative number. I don't like trends that point to negative numbers. I don't find them to be reliable. I mean, if you're following this trend, it did act as support through here. It did act as support through here. So the next level will be down around 14 cents. The next one after that will be 10 cents, then 5 cents, and then of course negative, which obviously can't happen. So I guess the next level I would watch on this would be around 14.8 cents. Okay. If I reset this real quick and look at a daily, see if we can find a smaller trend. This sort of works, right? So it fell through. Yeah, I like this one. So the next level on this one is to 16.7 cents. I like that, right? Maybe that's a local bottom. If Bitcoin finds a local bottom, that'd be kind of cool, right? To stop down around 16.7 cents and then have some type of bounce. Your 200-day moving average on this one's up around 29 cents. So again, you could find out that it has some kind of bearish retest. Let me look at the Bitcoin pair. Bitcoin pair has no divergence, right? From back here to back here. This is a higher low. The 200 daily is sitting right about here, so it's sitting right up about 27% up there. There's no sign of it turning the corner on the daily. What about the weekly? Weekly doesn't really have. It tried to put in a double bottom. If you look at this, it tried right here to put in a double bottom, which is a reversal signal. Came back down and tested the neckline, and this is where you could get excited and start thinking in bullish terms, but it failed. Instead of going up, it just came back down. So tough to say. This one is not looking good. It looks like it's probably going to go lower, but again, it's nearly impossible in my mind to find out where the low is going to be without prior levels. There was this candle here. I wouldn't pay any attention to it. It says 10 sats, but that's probably some scammy weird thing that happened that day. What do we got on? Did Zcoin yesterday, I think, or the day before, so not going to redo that one. Just did EOS. I still haven't remembered what else I was going to talk about. I'm sure once I wrap the video up, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what it was. But that's it for now, guys. That's what I'm saying, right? This is obviously a time where if you want to get super aggressive and you want to be bullish, you could potentially try to play this gap fill, right? You've got this gap that looks like this on the regular chart. You have a gap on the CME, right? A big gap on the CME. Way up here. So, there's arguments to be made that this thing is going to bounce up to $7,200 again before going any lower. And I don't think it's ridiculous to say that. I'm not going to long it. I'm kind of enjoying just waiting, to be honest with you. These ranges are so small. It's kind of like, I don't want to get in there and get chopped up when I can just be patient. And either it's going to go down and it's going to hit my target down around $6,400 and I'm going to get a chance to long it, or it's going to pump up, and if it pumps up, then hopefully I get a chance to short it. But this is not bullish structure, right? If you look at this, there's no bullish structure here. This is just a very cliche downtrend, right? So in a downtrend, rallies are for shorting, and in an uptrend, dips are for longing. This is a downtrend, so I'll wait for the rally, or I'll wait for a perfect long setup. The only way I'm going long is if it's like perfect, right? If I've got my ducks all in a row, I'm hitting the support levels, I'm seeing some really nice divergences, right? I'm seeing volume start to pick up on, volume start to dry up on the selling. All that kind of stuff starts painting a picture that, hey, the bears are getting exhausted. And that's the time where, you can think about longing a downtrend and trying to play the relief bounce. But you do have to play it as relief bounce, because look at all the people back here who thought they were great, bragging on social media about, oh, I longed it at 7,400. Yeah, well, they felt like heroes at 10.4, but if they're still holding it, they're underwater, right? Because they're perma bulls. So when they buy these dips, they don't sell them. They just buy them and keep holding them, and then it keeps going down. So with all that being said, the video is getting fairly long, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up there. Please remember, I am literally some guy sitting in a spare bedroom. Nothing in this video is financial advice. Nothing in this video is trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence and seek out professional investment advice before making any type of investment. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click that bell for notifications. And don't forget to check the description for links where you can support the channel and also some other places you can follow me. This is James with Crypto Common Sense. Trade safe.